Okay, so here we're asked to write the standard form of the quadratic function that has the indicated vertex and whose graph passes through the given point. So the vertex we're given is 4, 1, the point we're given is 6, negative 7. And when your book says standard form, it's referring to vertex form. So we'll be able to plug in the vertex and then solve for the a value that will cause a function with that vertex 4, 1 to pass through the point 6, negative 7. So we can start by plugging in our vertex. So we'll replace h with 4 and we'll replace k with 1. All right, so we now have f of x equals some a value times x minus 4 squared plus 1. The next step would be to plug in our point. So remember, f of x is our output. That's the same thing as our y value. So we can replace f of x with negative 7, and then we can replace our x with the value 6. So I plugged in negative 7 for y, plugged in 6 for x. Also, side note, I totally thought I was using red and blue. Go Patriots. Apparently, I'm using orange and blue. Ew, Gators. Go Knowles. But anyways, now that we have those plugged in, we can use order of operations to simplify and work to get a by itself. So, first thing, I think I'm gonna actually sneakily switch over to red. We're going to subtract 6 minus 4. 6 minus 4 is 2. So our next step will be to square that 2. All right, and then since 2 squared is 4, I went ahead and wrote 4a rather than saying a4. And so our next step will be to subtract 1 from both sides. Okay, so after subtracting 1 from both sides, minus 1, that brings us to negative 8 equals 4a. So our last step will be to divide both sides by 4 to get a by itself. So divided by 4, divided by 4, and we now see that our a value will be negative 2. Okay, so now we have all the pieces that we need to write this out in what we call vertex form. So we can plug in negative 2 for a, we'll plug in 4 for h, and we'll plug in 1 for k. All right, and after plugging in each of the pieces, our function that has the vertex 4, 1 that passes through the point 6, negative 7 would be f of x equals negative 2 times x minus 4 squared plus 1.